From Korea to Germany. From Alaska to Puerto Rico. All over the world, the men and women of your Army are on the alert to defend our nation, you, the American people, against aggression. This is the big picture.
Welcome to the big picture. I'm Captain Carl Zimmerman, here to tell you about your United States Army. In past programs of the big picture, we told you the many different things that make your Army the strongest fighting machine in the world. Today, we'd like to show you what the Army Medical Corps does to protect and save the lives of our soldiers wherever they are. Later on in our program, we want you to meet Lieutenant Colonel S.J. Newsom of San Diego, California, who is a division surgeon with the Army's 7th Division in Korea. But first, we take you to Washington for a word of greeting by the Surgeon General of the Army, Major General George E. Armstrong.
This program affords me a welcome opportunity to show you how the Army Medical Service does its job. Perhaps it will also give a basis for determining how well it does it. This is important because as we see our mission, we have an important responsibility not only to the men and women of the United States Army, but to you as well. Today, this mission is not easily accomplished. We are fighting a cruel enemy in a disease-ridden country. Our troops are also scattered in many other sections of the world where it is impossible to assure the same environmental conditions which may have prevailed at home. This much we can say, that your loved ones are safer today than under any comparable conditions in the past. That if wounded, they have twice the chance for survival as in World War II, and more than 3 times that of World War I. The story of how this was accomplished is both involved and exciting.
This was Korea early in July 1950 when American troops were rushed from Japan to stop the columns of red armor that were pushing south from the 38th parallel. Among the first to arrive were the medics, field surgeons, aid men, litter bearers, ambulance drivers, and essential supplies and equipment. Nurses arrived in a mobile surgical hospital unit on the way to the front. Although non-combatant, the men and women of the medical service are a part of the Army combat team. It is their job to conserve the Army's effective power and to evacuate and care for the sick and the wounded. Korea was a challenge to the Army Medical Service. Battle lines were fluid. The enemy was threatening the main road to the north beyond Daegu. We arrived in a strange country, its people uprooted by war. A country where malaria and dysentery are common, where epidemics of cholera and plague are a constant threat. In the early days of the Korean campaign, the planes that brought badly needed supplies and equipment were used to evacuate many of the more seriously ill and wounded. The air shuttle brought in blood plasma, drugs, bandages, and other items for the emergency care of the wounded. Surgical instruments and equipment, anesthetics, dressings, whole blood, and other items for the mobile surgical hospital a few miles behind the lines. Our field medical units move with the combat troops they support. Men of the Army Medical Service have followed our troops through every phase of the Korean campaign. From the early tank battles in the South, when our forces were heavily outnumbered by the enemy, to the invasion of Incheon in September 1950. They were with the tank men of the 1st Cavalry Division, who chased the Korean Reds out of their capital at Pyongyang. Men of the Army Medical Service jumped with the 4,100 paratroops who descended north of Pyongyang on 20 October 1950 to wipe out the remnants of General Kim's army. They were in the mountains along the Yalu River in November of that year when the Chinese Reds entered the conflict. They were with the troops of the 10th Corps who made the long winter withdrawal to Hungnam. With the units of the 7th Infantry Division who were isolated and had to be evacuated by air. With the exhausted troops who were evacuated from Hungnam by sea.